evening. Welcome to the Tuesday, November 20th regular meeting of the Town of Orange Plan and Zoning Commission. Before we begin tonight's proceedings, I'd like to point out the location of our emergency exits, which are the middle of the room to my right, your left, where most of us enter and exit the room from on a regular basis. The other two are in the rear of the room, again to my right, your left, one immediately upon entering the hallway, one at the end of the hallway. I'd like to ask those seated at the table to introduce themselves.
Paul Denise, Zoning Administrator and Enforcement Officer.
Rick Mangione.
Paul Kaplan.
Ozzie Parenti.
Judy Smith-Morgan.
And I'm Commissioner Walter Clark. The first item on tonight's agenda is a request from the Conservation Commission for requesting the opportunity to review subdivision development proposals. I know that Paul spoke to Dr. Tucker. He submitted a letter, and I trust everybody got the letter and read it. I know that Paul had some conversations with them and suggested to them that they be involved in the pre-submission meetings.
Yeah, I know in many other towns that they do have an opportunity to go over subdivision plans, and probably my thinking was the best way to handle it was to give them a signature line on the referral page, and that way you're getting their comments as soon as possible rather than after the application is submitted to you and they're under the clock, and if there's any suggestions, they have to be incorporated in a redesign of a plan.
Yeah, now, they would be limited. They are very limited in power, so they're limited really to the power of suggestion, and that would be it. So, if they're involved early in the planning stages, that would be the opportunity for them to be most effective. They're also most closely aligned with wetlands commissions, from what I've read in the in the state guidelines.
Does the developer offer blueprints, or does Paul? How is that going to happen?
Well, what we usually do is we have a pre-submission meeting prior to them formally submitting the application to the commission, and we'll get all the various department heads together, from the town engineer to town sanitarian, wetlands officer, and they would sit in on that meeting.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the opportunity where they'd be most advantageous to them and then to the town as well. When an application comes before us, if the applicant's going to cut down a tree of significance or alter review or something of that nature, we really don't have the authority to say yes or no. We can ask them to go around it, but we don't have the authority to insist upon it. So if they have a chance prior to the formal submission of the application to get their comments in, hopefully the applicant can adjust the plans if necessary.
And then, Paul, I would just ask that you let them know that if a plan meets our regulations, we have to approve it. In many cases, we may like it or we may not, but, they just have to understand that we have a statutory obligation.
Yes,
And
exactly, yeah.
And that would, that rules.
So we don't have to take a vote on this then, correct?
No, but I think at least you should instruct me
Okay.
probably to add them to the pre-submission process and signature line so you can obtain their
I
comments.
guess I'll ask the question, is the commission in favor of adding them to the pre-submission meetings and also adding them on a sign-off line?
Yeah, I don't see how it hurts. There's suggestion power only. They may bring stuff to the table that we are unaware of. I think that you've mentioned that before. I don't see how that hurts. I think it may help.
I would agree. Would anybody care to make a motion?
I'll move that the Conservation Commission be given a, how do you describe it, Paul?
I would say departmental review and comment line.
Okay, on the, for the pre-submission meeting, and I'll leave it like that.
We have a motion. Would anybody care to second it?
Second.
Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. The second item on tonight's agenda is a request for the reduction of site plan bond for Springbrook Commons at 240 Indian River Road. There's a $485,650 site plan bond, and a $10,000 cash bond is being held by the town of Orange.
I made a number of inspections there. I don't know if I included this in your packet, but I did get an email from Amity Construction. And what they say is the items not completed as of November 7th are as follows: second course of paving, parking lot lighting, parking lot striping, landscaping, wheel stops, signage. Our estimated value for the above items is $72,675. The original bonding amount is $485,650. If you have any questions or need for information, please contact us. We're also holding a $10,000 cash bond, so the reduction would occur on that $485,000 letter of credit.
Has the town engineer reviewed this request?
No, but his assistant has, and I did talk to Ed today, and he didn't seem to have any problems with the reduction.
Did he give any suggestion as to the amount of reduction?
No, no, he didn't.
And has Scott looked at this as well?
Yes, I was out with Scott on Friday, and even before I took him out there, he had no problems or issues.
Okay.
There was one minor issue in terms of reinstallation of some sedimentation and erosion control fence on a corner of the property.
I was going to say, there's
You don't have to reduce it all the way to the 72. You
No.
can-
there's no indication of what the request is, though, as far as reducing.
I think he's giving an estimated value of work left is $72,000, the ultimate.
So the most, what he's asking for is down to about 410. That's not necessarily what we're going to give him. I guess that leaves the door open for suggestion. I would,
Was you planning on paving this year?
the second course?
You know, I didn't ask him that.
The reason
I know
is-
what I recommend is that if it's in a situation like this, that they not pave until the spring.
Till spring, yeah.
Right, because the oil prices are going up, and asphalt goes up with the
Well, you
price.
you can place a larger bond amount on there.
Well, I just don't know how many square feet of asphalt.
You know, I wouldn't
Parking lot
even, we don't even know really what portion of this 72,675 is delegated to the asphalt either. I mean, I would think that we'd want to play this a little conservative, perhaps leave a bond of, say, double that, 145, for instance.
I've never dealt with an insurance,
150?
I've never dealt with an insurance company to do anything other than double what you expected it to be. But the first preliminary question I have is, Paul, is that 72 a fair number given today's circumstance?
It seemed to be. It seemed to be.
And that's usually when the town engineer reviews it, that's usually what he looks at as well. The cost involved and obviously the work involved as well, too. But I think that,
You got any comments with regard to the work involved as to the numbers?
No, I would have to look at the plan, because it depends how many square feet of asphalt. I mean, landscaping could be $40,000. I don't know how intense of a landscaping plan it is, I would have to look at the plans to get an idea. Is it a big landscaping area, or?
Well, it's a large site.
it's a fairly large site, but you're talking the green strips and then the islands, really, and there was some fairly
But is there some
extensive plantings
trees?
along the back edge.
I'd kind of, my estimate is $150,000 would be more than sufficient.
Yeah, I would think that, certainly it's not going to exceed that. And then we do have the $10,000 cash bond. And again, when the town engineer reviews these, he looks at these and really looks at it and says, well,
Right,
is
puts
this
a value
is
on
this
it.
a legitimate cost estimate on these
I
typically?
did discuss it with that, but we didn't get into any specific amounts. He didn't seem to have an issue.
Okay.
The other comment is that this developer has been stellar in terms of his cooperation with the town and his meeting the site plan.
Did Ed actually eyeball the site? I mean, does he know what needed to be done out there?
Yes, but the only issue is that Ed was away on vacation for a week, so his familiarity with the site was, 2 weeks removed. But he didn't have any concerns, and as a matter of fact, when I talked to him about it, he said that job has gone extremely well, and had no concerns with it.
All right, I'll make a motion that we reduce the site plan bond. Have it done by motion?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure. Request that we approve the reduction on the site plan bond for Springbrook Commons, 240 River Road, to $150,000, plus the $10,000 should be continued to be held until further order.
Okay. We have a motion. Would anybody care to second it?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Well, he's not reducing it 150 from the 485, it's going to be 150 total, right?
It's going to be 150, yes.
Okay.
The amount of the bond is going to be 150 plus the 10.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
that's the proposal. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Motion passes unanimously. The next item on tonight's agenda is an executive session to discuss the possible Ravenswood settlement. So we need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
I'll second it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Would like to invite Paul into the session. Might as well go in the other room. Do we need a motion to come out of executive session? Okay. Meeting is back at 8 o'clock out of executive session. The next item on tonight's agenda is a discussion on the update on the Marsh Hill Road, Edison Road Development Study. Paul sent out another series of requests for bids, and nobody responded, correct?
And there was a notice.
And a notice, so. I spoke to Paul Grimmer about this. He was somewhat disappointed in the low turnout, but obviously he also expressed a need, and I agree that we have to get moving on this. He asked Paul to put together a letter summarizing all the attempts we've made to get bids on this project, and Paul's going to do that. And I don't know if you're going to forward that to Paul Grimmer or ask him where to forward it to the state, but he wanted to just have it on record that we did have these attempts, and just to outline the attempts that we did make to get additional bids.
What do we have right now in hand?
The two that we had a month and a half ago. So I think we should schedule those interviews as soon as possible and get moving on this. Really, we in 2010 we have to have a new plan of conservation and development, or a revised one. And as Paul and I had a brief discussion the other day, really the only change you might make, or the only undeveloped area you have, is in the light industrial zone right around this. So this is really going to be the cornerstone of our revamping of the plan of conservation and development. And also it happens to come at a good time, because the cost can be deferred to this engineering firm, whoever we choose, as opposed to having our own planner do this on the cost that would be generated by the town. So the timing is quite good on it.
Bo, for these people that have responded, are those the methodology that we used? Was Vinnie part of that at all?
Was Vinnie Marino part of this?
Yes.
In the method we used to contact them?
Not the method. No, not at all. I mean, it's okay. Did he give his blessing that we could go forward with interviews and so forth for the two?
I don't see why. I don't think the town attorney would have much to say about that.
Okay. Well,
The only thing I did, Paul, was talk to the finance director as far as what we were supposed to do under the municipal ordinances.
okay, that's all right. I just wanted to make sure that we complied with what we needed to comply with.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I did speak to Mr. Grimmer also, and asked him if he would like to, when we have our interviews, if he would like to participate in the interviews. Obviously, he doesn't have a vote on the issue, but I think his input would be beneficial at the interview process. Are there any other questions or comments? Why don't we work on that, Paul, and see if we can get some interviews lined up as soon as possible then. We move forward on that. The next item on tonight's agenda is the site plan application, a lighting supplement submitted by owner Sean Ree Properties for property known as 259 Bull Hill Lane, which is Stop and Shop. Would the applicant like to come forward? Good evening. Welcome back.
Thank you.
We have the revised lighting plan.
Sure. It's Daniel Badgley. It's Badgley.
We have the revised lighting plan before us, done to the scale that we require and everything. But in the area that has the gas station, there's no light spillage shown.
Correct.
Could you explain that? It's not a black hole.
We did not model existing lighting.
I think that we need to have that, because this not only, when we review these lighting supplements, it not only is an opportunity to make sure that the lighting that's put in conforms to our regulations, but it's also another opportunity to make sure that what is existing can maybe be brought into conformity if it's non-conforming. So we need to get the lighting figures there. I think.
Then we,
Also with
My name's Chris Cardney, professional engineer with Langen Engineering, also representing the applicant Stop and Shop. Cardany. And the reason why the gas station was not modeled is because it's not part of the project site. We don't model existing lighting fixtures that are off-site from the property.
But isn't the site owned on one deed by Stop and Shop?
No, it's separate ownership, and that was
They
part
are
of
separate
the,
ownerships? Okay,
that was part of the reason of pulling the lights outside.
okay,
The spillage that we had onto them, we pulled back for that
Okay.
same reason.
okay. I do have one other question. There's a couple spots here, if I'm not mistaken, that are very minor on this eastern side, that are just slightly over, if I'm not, am I correct? This appears to be a, is that a .6 there?
That's a .5 there, right?
And this .5 is slightly over. I'm guessing these are very minor. Maybe an angle or something like that? or-
Yeah, another thing is that the actual point that number is relating to is just the upper left, which
Okay.
is not being shown for clarity.
Okay,
So the way the number's oriented and the actual point that it's corresponding to is actually on site.
okay. Paul, you reviewed the fixture design and they meet our regulations?
Yes, they do.
There's a couple spots on that eastern side, Paul, that are right about on the .5.
Is there a residential area on this side? I
On the
forget.
eastern side, yes.
It
I
is,
believe it is. It's a apartment building or something there?
right?
I believe this is all commercial.
This is commercial here?
This is a
Okay.
parking lot, and there's a building right in here.
This is Stop and Shop Orange?
Yes,
Yeah.
Commercial center next door, it's in West Haven.
okay.
That's the property line, right, I mean, the town line right there, right?
Yes.
So that the
Yes.
eastern border is in West Haven. Yeah.
Let's get out of the way. This is the Stop and Shop here. This is the adjacent
Okay.
site. This is an industrial use, and I believe this is is that a
Commercial
gym?
use.
Or,
Yeah, the LA Fitness.
LA
and
Fitness.
that's-
and this is the new Kohl's, I believe.
Yeah. Any questions or comments from the commission? Would anybody care to make a motion?
Yeah, so I'll move that the site plan, I'll move to approve the site plan application lighting supplement submitted by the owner Shanri Properties for the property known as 259 Bull Hill Lane, which is Stop and Shop.
We have a motion. Anybody care to second it?
Second?
Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item on tonight's agenda is a discussion on the sign regulations. I'm meeting on Monday with Paul Grimmer and at least one member of the Chamber of Commerce in Mr. Grimmer's office, and he had a request from the Chamber of Commerce to set up a meeting to discuss it with them. I think it's a good idea. The more input we get on this, I think the better off we are. We're not in any immediate hurry. The post road looks fantastic with Paul's program that he's doing now. So, it's not as if the sky is falling, and I think we want to proceed with caution here. We don't want to do anything that's going to damage our business interests on the post road. So I'll meet with them on Monday. As I mentioned, Mr. Grimmer wants me to meet with the Chamber of Commerce. We haven't determined the date of that. And, judgment those meetings again, we'll get together and draft any new regulations if we so decide. I am waiting to hear from the town attorney as far as setting up some guidelines for the deputizing of a couple individuals to patrol on the weekends. And again, that's really just going to be a matter of collecting data, collecting information, and then the rest will be handled by Paul.
No, I think that's terrific, because Paul, there's no way to do it on the weekends, and that's where a lot of the violations occur, so.
Right. But we don't want somebody who's not a town employee going out there and taking the signs either.
Bring back the information as to what
Correct.
occurred.
Yeah. So the town attorney is reviewing that to make sure we, get everything lined up in the right way with that.
So you've met with some business owners on Route 1.
We
You and
met
Paul?
with several. Paul and I did on 2 occasions, two or three. I can't remember. It was 2 or 3.
There were at least 10 or 15 separate business owners who were relatively vocal about what they wanted.
And then you'll meet with Chamber of Commerce.
We'll meet with Chamber of
And then once
Commerce.
there's a draft regulation, that's a public hearing, so another opportunity for
Absolutely,
for
yeah.
input.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think after the meeting with Chamber of Commerce, I'll probably throw together, we have some input from, Paul Grimmer submitted a letter with his comments. Mike Riccitelli submitted a letter. I asked Mr. Riccitelli to send a letter in because one of the remaining areas of concern is real estate signs. So I asked for his opinion on that. I'm sure at the public hearing portion of it, if not before, we'll get some other input from other realtors, but we want to address that as well. And then we'll see what comes out of the meetings with the Chamber of Commerce, and we'll take it from there. We'll decide if we want to impose new regulations, or if we want to just keep the status quo and just have the enforcement, but that's the decision we'll make at that time. Any other questions? There being none, we'll go on to old business. I have nothing under old business.
Curious as to whether or not our friend on the post road,
Should be opened.
They're open.
they're open?
They're open.
No kidding.
I got a good review from my dad.
Oh,
Yeah.
terrific. Oh, he moves like lightning. He was already there?
Bear and Grill. They're open, Paul.
Is there anything under new business?
For the commission's information, we're still holding a bond. There are a few minor items that have not been completed. One is the sprinkler system's been installed, but it's not functional yet, so as soon as
Oh,
it is.
the lawn sprinkler
Lawn
system.
sprinkler.
I think it was fire suppression. Fire suppression, I was gonna say, wait a minute. That might be a problem. Okay, the next item is new business. Do we have anything under new business? There being none, we'll go to the report of the zoning enforcement officer.
Really don't have much to report other than I was in court on yesterday, Monday, with regard to Cuz Acres in the town of Orange. No representatives from Cuz Acres showed up in court, and the judge started levying a fine of $350 per day until the violations are remediated up on the site.
Are these the violations that we had talked about before?
That's correct.
Paul, is that retroactive to the date of notice, or does it?
No, that commenced yesterday.
Okay.
Is it per violation or just per day?
Per day.
Okay.
And that also includes wetland violations and zoning violations.
Was-
Stu Leonard's was also in court with us because
Oh, they went onto his
at
property,
one
correct?
point, I had stopped the trucks from coming over town roads and was going to issue a summons via the police department. And instead of taking the materials on town roads, they kind of went around
It went
Restaurant
through one of his
Depot.
stone walls and everything, right?
Right, went through a stone wall, down through our sewer line right of way, and then back onto their property.
Just a total disregard for, well,
When will they hear the information from the court decision?
I don't know, I know Vinnie's in touch with them on another matter, but
It's usually within a day or two. Yeah, maybe three,
Is
but
there
the
a
court clerk goes
lien?
out to computer right away.
Is there a lien on the property? Isn't he selling it?
I'm not quite sure of the status of that.
I thought when he came in, he said he was taking his topsoil because
Oh,
he
that was,
sold the land.
that portion of the property has been sold.
Oh, it is, okay.
He still retains the part where all the
with his work is
excavation.
being done. Okay.
How many acres are we talking about over there, Paul?
Remaining, well, part of it's in Orange and part of it's in West Haven. 25 maybe.
Was West Haven involved, Paul?
I let them know what was occurring. It seemed to me initially they said there were some concerns and violations over there, but every time I contacted them, there just didn't seem to be much of a response.
Well, at least we've taken care of it in Orange. Any other comments, Paul? As I mentioned before, I took a ride down the post road, and everything looked fantastic. I had an opportunity to actually just running some errands. I went from Milford down to the Lowe's shopping center, and really, it's a tremendous improvement over the past. Even the temporary signs, they seem to be, this was on a Saturday, so I thought I'd see a flurry of them, and maybe I just got lucky, but there weren't many. So it was-
We're still picking up, believe it or not. Every day I'm going to say there's another 10 to 20 that go up, and we just take them down every single day.
Your work is paying off, I'll put it that way. So it's good to see. Anything else for Paul or questions for Paul? The last item on tonight's agenda is a discussion and review of the 2008-2009 budget. We have the memo that was in our packets, and Paul has also supplied us with a breakdown of our to-date expenditures. So I think since it doesn't have to be in until, I believe, was the 18th of December.
Yes, I double-checked that with Pam today, so we have one more meeting to,
So why don't we just take this information back with us, we'll review it, and that way we can review it, be prepared to make any comments when we have the data, when we reviewed the data here. I think it's important to have the to-date expenditures when we're, trying to plan.
question that seems to always come up with our budget is what is the land use item? And you'll notice there's a revenue side and an expenditure side. For every application, land use application that we have in the office, the state requires us to collect $28 for them, and we can keep $2 administratively. So there's an additional $30 charge that's built into every application, and that's what that reflects. And obviously, the money that we expend or give back to the state coincides with exactly with the number of applications that we get.
So in other words, that number is always a push. Does that idea work well with the commission, that we review this at our next meeting?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. That concludes our agenda items. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned at 8:20.